Whenever we talk about Dubai on this show, or really whenever anyone talks about Dubai, we usually start with the superlatives.
It's always the brand.
It's the tallest building, the deepest pool, the biggest mall. It is, I guess, the global headquarters of ambition.
Yeah.
It's a city literally built on the promise that if you hustle hard enough, you can build anything.
That is the brand, absolutely. It's a
Totally.
very
Yeah.
seductive
Great.
image. It pulls people in from London, New York, Mumbai, Singapore. It promises that if you put in the work, you get the status, the tax-free salary, and the lifestyle.
Right. But I was reading through the stack of research you sent over for today's deep dive, and it paints a very different picture of what's happening behind that glass and steel facade. When we're talking about the success stories today, we are talking about a phenomenon that seems to be the dark underbelly of that high-performance culture. The sources are calling it quiet cracking.
It is a jarring term, isn't it?
It is, and I have to be honest with you, and I'm sure some of you listening are thinking this too. When I first saw the headline, I rolled my eyes a little.
Huh? I'm not surprised.
I thought, great, another workplace buzzword. We've had quiet quitting, resenteeism, bare minimum Mondays.
Yeah.
Do we really need another label for just being tired at work?
I had the exact same initial reaction. It feels like we're just pathologizing everything these days. But as you dig into the data, especially the reports coming out of the UAE market right now, you realize this isn't just a rebrand of burnout.
Okay.
It is mechanically different.
How so? Because to me, burnout is burnout. You crash, you burn, you stop.
Well, let's look at quiet quitting, which was the big story of 2023. That was about agency.
Right. You were choosing to do less.
Exactly. That was a worker looking at their contract and saying, I am going to do exactly what you pay me for and not a single thing more. It was a conscious boundary-setting exercise. Quiet cracking is the opposite. It is involuntary.
Involuntary. So you don't choose to do it.
Completely. The person experiencing quiet cracking wants to perform. They are performing. To their boss, their client, even their spouse, they look like they're operating at 100%. But internally, the psychological infrastructure is just collapsing. They aren't choosing to pull back. They are fighting to stay engaged. But the fuel tank is physically empty.
That is actually terrifying. Because if you're quiet quitting, you have a sense of control. You're sticking it to the man, in a way.
Yeah, you feel empowered.
But this sounds like you are losing control while pretending to have it.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It is a silent erosion. And our mission today is to figure out why this is spiking now, specifically in high-pressure hubs like Dubai, and how you spot a collapse that is designed to be invisible.
And the context here really matters. The sources we're looking at highlight that this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a transient, high-stakes market where stability is hard to come by.
Right. And when your professional life feels precarious, which we'll get into, your personal foundation becomes the only thing keeping you upright.
Which brings us to a practical reality the sources touched on. If you're already mentally redlining, the logistics of life, even finding a place to live.
Oh, that can be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly. The source material explicitly mentioned that dealing with housing stress while you're under this internal pressure is just a recipe for disaster.
It's about cognitive load.
Mm.
If you're worrying about your lease or the internet not working or living out of a suitcase in a hotel room that feels like a shoebox, you do not have the bandwidth to manage the work stress. You need a sanctuary.
That is why I wanted to flag MoveInStay.com early in this discussion. We usually think of housing as just logistics, but in the context of quiet cracking, it's really about mental preservation.
And they've been in the game for a long time, haven't they?
Over 25 years. They specialize in the Asia-Pacific region, dealing with service departments, service offices, and extended stay hotels. And the key thing here is they aren't just a booking engine for tourists. They work with corporate teams and entrepreneurs who need to be on the ground for months at a time.
Which is exactly the demographic most at risk for this cracking. The people sent on assignment or starting a new venture.
Precisely. If you're relocating to a high-pressure zone, you need a home, not a hotel room that feels like a cage after 3 days. MoveAndStay.com focuses on that extended stay market. It's about removing friction.
Right.
If you can solve the where do I sleep and work problem with something that feels like a stable home base, you are buying yourself resilience.
It is one less plate to spin. And as we're about to see, spinning plates is the central metaphor here.
So let's get back to the mechanics of this. The source material used an analogy that really stuck with me. It compared the professional experiencing quiet cracking to a plant.
Yes, a plant that is still green but has stopped growing.
Which is insidious, right? Because if I walk past that plant in the office, I think it's fine. It's upright. It has leaves. I might even water it thinking it's thriving.
But if you look closer, the color is dull. There's no new growth. The roots are rotting. And that is the essence of this phenomenon, the high-functioning mask. We have to debunk the myth that struggling always looks like failing.
Right, because the traditional view of burnout, what we all grew up understanding, is a drop in productivity.
Yeah.
You miss deadlines. You call in sick. You start making sloppy mistakes.
That is stage 4 burnout. Quiet cracking is stage 2 or 3. The productivity is still there, but the cost of that productivity has skyrocketed. The source calls it sustained but restrained performance.
Sustained but restrained. That's a mouthful.
Think of it like a car engine. You can drive at 100 miles per hour. But if you're doing it in second gear, the engine is screaming, the car is moving, the speedometer says 100, but the heat being generated under the hood is melting the components.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If the output is the same, why should an employer care? If I'm manager in Dubai and my director is hitting their KPIs, delivering the reports, and managing the team, why does it matter if they're screaming in second gear internally? Business is business.
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer is sustainability. That engine will blow. It is not a matter of if, it's when. And when it does, it won't be a slow decline. It will be a sudden catastrophic failure. We see this with executives who suddenly resign with zero notice, or worse, have a major health event, a heart attack or a collapse right at their desk.
So it's a ticking time bomb. You're trading short-term gain for a total loss of the asset.
It is. And you can spot the signs if you look for energy leaks rather than output drops.
Give me an example. What does an energy leak look like if they're still doing the work?
Emotional flattening. The source mentions reduced emotional expression. You know that colleague who used to be the spark in the meeting, the one who'd crack a joke or get passionate about a strategy or even get annoyed when things went wrong?
Sure, the one who cares, the one who has skin in the game.
When they crack, they stop caring. Their tone becomes flat. They offer the solution, but there's no life behind it. They become transactional. They're just moving data from point A to point B.
That's interesting. So they aren't being negative, necessarily. They aren't the toxic employee complaining at the water cooler. They're just beige.
Beige is the perfect word for it. It's a defense mechanism. They're conserving energy because they have none left.
Okay.
Another sign is persistent dissatisfaction. Imagine landing a massive, a ring-the-bell moment. A healthy person feels a rush of dopamine, pride, excitement.
Champagne time, high fives.
The cracked person just feels relief or emptiness. They think, thank God that's over, rather than, look what we did. When the wins don't feel like wins, the battery isn't recharging.
That resonates. I think a lot of people listening have felt that. You cross the finish line of a massive project, and instead of celebrating, you just want to go into a dark room and sleep for a week.
And that brings us to the why. Why is this happening so acutely right now? The source material focuses heavily on the Dubai market, and I found the economic data they cited to be genuinely shocking.
Oh, the salary compression. I had to read those numbers twice. I thought it was a typo.
It is brutal math, and it explains the psychological state perfectly.
So for the listeners who aren't in the UAE, let's set the scene. Dubai is getting more expensive. Rents are up significantly. School fees are up. The general cost of living is climbing.
Right.
Logic dictates salaries should go up to match, right? That's basic economics.
In a normal market, yes, supply and demand.
But the source highlights a compensation disconnect. They track the salary for a senior manager role. In 2020, the expected salary range was roughly AED 25,000 to 35,000. Now, looking at 2025 projections, that range has dropped to AED 18,000 to 28,000.
That is nearly a 30% drop at the low end.
Yeah.
In 5 years, while inflation has gone the other way.
And it isn't just managers. Directors, people running entire departments, are seeing caps drop from 50K down to 40K. So you have people with 10, 15 years of experience being told, sorry, you're actually worth less today than you were 3 years ago.
While their rent has gone up 20%.
Exactly. So here's my question. Why are they saying? Why aren't they rioting? Why aren't they just leaving?
Fear. The report calls it the fear factor. You have to remember, Dubai is a visa-sponsored ecosystem. Your right to be in the country is tied to your employment ID.
That is a massive psychological lever.
It is. If you lose your job, the clock starts ticking. You have 30 or 60 days to find a new one, or you have to uproot your entire life, pull kids out of school, cancel leases, sell cars.
Wow.
That creates a baseline hum of anxiety that doesn't exist in London or New York in the same way. So when a recruiter offers you a lowball salary, you don't negotiate from a position of power, you negotiate from a position of survival.
And that has to breed resentment.
Incredible resentment. You're doing the work of a director, you have the stress of a director, but you're being paid like a manager. That creates a cognitive dissonance. Every day you log in, a part of your brain is saying, this isn't fair, I am being exploited.
Right.
And suppressing that voice takes energy.
It's like a background app running on your phone that drains the battery even when you aren't using it.
That is it. That is the silent erosion. You aren't cracking because the work is too hard. You're cracking because the exchange of value feels broken. You feel trapped.
Okay, so we have the environment. High stakes, visa anxiety, dropping wages, and a culture of hustle. Now let's talk about the personality type. Because not everyone cracks. Some people just get angry and quit. Some people check out and do a bad job. Who is the most susceptible to this quiet cracking?
The source identifies the perfection trap. This hits the high achievers, the people with high-functioning anxiety.
The people who pride themselves on never dropping a ball. The yes people.
The source used the visual of spinning plates. We all have them. Work plate, family plate, health plate, social status plate. The perfectionist believes that dropping any plate is a total failure of character.
I feel seen.
I think we all do. But here's the catch. As the environment gets harder, salaries drop, expectations rise, the plates get heavier, a healthy person might say, okay, the social plate has to drop for a while, or I'm going to put the perfect parent plate down and just be a good enough parent for a month.
But the person who cracks.
They refuse to put any plates down. They just spin faster. They cut out sleep. They cut out lunch. They cut out downtime. And that leads to the physical manifestations. The body keeps the score.
What should we look for physically? Because if they're hiding the mental stress, the body usually tells on you eventually.
It's rarely dramatic at first. It's the Sunday scaries on steroids. Trouble sleeping is the big one. Waking up at 3 a.m. with a racing heart, thinking about an email. Frequent headaches. Digestive issues. Or, and this is common, a weakened immune system. You catch every cold that goes around.
Your body is pulling the emergency brake because your mind won't.
Exactly. The body's saying, if you won't stop, I will make you stop.
So we've diagnosed the problem. We know the triggers. Let's talk about the fix. And I was glad to see the source material didn't just suggest taking a yoga class or breathing deeply.
Thank goodness. If I see one more wellness seminar that puts the burden entirely on the employee, I might crack myself.
The sources were pretty explicit here. You can't grow a healthy plant in bad soil. That suggests this is a leadership problem, not just a me problem.
It's fundamentally an organizational issue. We tend to privatize stress. We tell employees to build resilience. But if you put a resilient person in a toxic, undervalued role, they will eventually crack. It just takes longer.
So if I'm a leader listening to this, and I want to stop my team from silently imploding, what do I do? Because I can't necessarily control the market salary rates. I have a budget I have to stick to.
No, you can't always control the pay, but you can control the culture of psychological safety.
That is a term that gets thrown around a lot. Define that in this context.
It's about active listening. Most managers manage tasks. Is the report done? Did the client sign? Are the numbers up? That's task management. People management is asking, how are you holding up? And actually waiting for the answer.
And looking for that beige response we talked about.
Right. If you ask your star performer how they are, and they give you a robotic, I'm fine, everything is under control, that should be a red flag, not a relief. You need to probe, and you need to model vulnerability yourself.
Model vulnerability. That is tough for a lot of old school leaders who think they need to be Iron Men.
It is, but look at the signal you send. If the boss sends emails at 11:00 p.m., the team assumes they have to answer at 11:05 p.m. That is an unwritten rule. But if the boss says, hey, I'm heading out at 4 p.m. to watch my kid's soccer game, I'll be back online tomorrow, that gives permission for the team to have a life.
It signals that the always-on switch is allowed to be turned off.
Exactly. Boundaries are the only antidote to cracking.
Let's pivot to the individual for a second, because we can't always wait for our bosses to get enlightened. If I'm listening to this and realizing, oh, wow, I am cracking. I am the plant with the rotting roots. What can I do today?
You have to reclaim autonomy. The root of this stress is a feeling of helplessness, that market forces and boss demands are controlling you. You need to take back small pockets of control.
Like what?
The source suggests strict digital boundaries. And I know everyone says turn off notifications, but you have to actually do it. You have to differentiate between capacity and availability. You might have the capacity to answer that email at 9:00 p.m. You're smart enough, you have the energy, you have the phone in your hand, but are you available?
That is a powerful distinction. Just because I can do it doesn't mean I am doing it.
Right. And schedule your downtime like a meeting. Put lunch in your calendar. If you don't block that time, someone else will steal it. When you reclaim your time, you remind your brain that you are in the driver's seat.
It's about proving to yourself that you exist outside of your utility as a worker.
That is profound, yes. Your value is not just your output. That is the hardest lesson for high achievers to learn.
We have covered a lot of ground today. We've defined quiet cracking as that dangerous state where performance masks a collapsing internal infrastructure.
We looked at the Dubai context, the salary drops, the visa pressure that acts as an accelerant for this fire.
And we identified the signs, the emotional flatness, the lack of joy in victory, and the need for leaders to stop looking at just the KPIs and start looking at the people delivering them.
The takeaway for me is the vocabulary. Now that we have a name for it, quiet cracking, we can spot it. We can stop congratulating people for powering through and start asking them what it is costing them.
It's not about resilience. It is about sustainability.
Ideally, yes.
I want to leave you with a thought today that circles back to those spinning plates. It's a badge of honor for so many of us to keep them all in the air. But based on what we learned today, I have a question for you. If you are the one keeping all those plates spinning perfectly and you are exhausted, have you stopped to check which one is about to fall? And more importantly, is that plate actually worth the cost of keeping it in the air?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We will see you next time.